The last thing he said to me was, "You'll never survive without me." He stood in the doorway of our penthouse apartment, a suitcase in one hand, his mistress on the phone in the other, and he delivered that line with the casual confidence of a man who believed his own lies. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just watched him walk out, taking with him 15 years of marriage, 10 years of building a business together, and the 90% ownership stake he had quietly, legally, and ruthlessly secured in the months before he left. He thought he had won. He thought he had broken me. He had no idea that he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. My name is Sasha Vance. And until that moment, I thought I understood the difference between partnership and possession. I thought my husband, Marcus, and I were building something together. We met in college, two broke students with big dreams and no safety nets. He was studying business. I was studying design. We complemented each other perfectly, or so I believed. After graduation, we pooled our meager savings and launched Vance and Company, a boutique branding agency. I handled the creative side, the vision, the concepts, the work that won awards. He handled the business side, the clients, the contracts, the money. For 10 years, we grew from a tiny studio apartment to a real office, from 2 employees to 50, from struggling to pay rent to billing millions. I thought it was our shared success, our shared dream. I was wrong. It was his plan all along. The signs were there, I see now, hidden in plain sight. The way he insisted on being the only one who talked to our accountant, the way he handled all the contracts, all the legal documents, all the boring stuff I was grateful to avoid, the way he encouraged me to focus on the creative work, to leave the business to him. I trusted him. I loved him. I never looked at the fine print. When he left, I finally did. What I found was a decade of meticulous, cold-blooded planning. He had structured our company so that I held only 10% of the shares. He had taken out loans in my name, using my credit, my signature, my trust. He had drained our joint accounts, transferred our assets, and left me with nothing but debt and a company I technically didn't own. The legal battle was brutal and expensive. I spent 2 years and every dollar I could borrow fighting him in court. He had better lawyers, deeper pockets, and a paper trail that made me look like a naive fool who had willingly signed away her rights. I lost. The court awarded me a small settlement, enough to pay my debts, but not enough to start over. He kept the company, the clients, the reputation we had built together. He kept everything. I was 37 years old, broke, alone, and starting from zero. Most people would have broken. Most people would have given up. But something happened to me in that courtroom, watching him smile as the judge read the verdict. Something shifted. The grief, the rage, the despair, they didn't disappear. They transformed. They crystallized into something cold, something sharp, something patient. I realized that the legal system couldn't give me justice. The courts couldn't undo what he had done. But that didn't mean justice was impossible. It just meant I would have to create it myself. I spent the next 3 years doing something he never expected. I disappeared. Not literally. I still lived in the same city, still moved in the same circles. But I became invisible in the ways that mattered. I stopped fighting. I stopped protesting. I let him think he had won. I let him believe I was broken, defeated, irrelevant. And while he celebrated his victory, while he expanded the company, while he married his mistress and posed for magazine covers, I was building something of my own. Not a business, not a rival company, something far more dangerous. I was building a file. I used my knowledge of the industry, my relationships with former clients, my understanding of his methods, to quietly gather information. I learned about the corners he cut, the clients he overcharged, the promises he broke. I learned about the affair he had started years before he left, the one his new wife didn't know about. I learned about the offshore accounts where he hid money from the IRS, from his partners, from everyone. I became a ghost in his machine, a silent observer, a patient collector of secrets. I also rebuilt myself. I took a job at a small design firm, working for a fraction of what I used to make. I swallowed my pride and started over. I learned new skills, made new connections, proved to myself that I was more than the woman he had destroyed. I dated, cautiously, learning to trust again. I found a therapist who helped me understand that my worth was not tied to his opinion of me. I became someone new, someone stronger, someone patient, someone dangerous. 3 years passed. His company grew. His reputation soared. He was featured in Forbes, interviewed on podcasts, celebrated as a self-made success story. He never mentioned me, of course. I was erased from the narrative, a footnote in his origin story, the first wife who helped in the early days. I watched it all from the shadows, and I waited. I waited for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, the perfect weapon. And then, one day, it arrived. A former client of his reached out to me, someone I had worked with closely in the early days. They were unhappy with Marcus's work, suspicious of his billing, looking for a second opinion. They remembered me. They trusted me. They asked if I would consult on a project, just a small one, off the books. I said yes. It was the opening I needed. The first thread in a tapestry I had been weaving for 3 years. I didn't know yet where it would lead, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Marcus had no idea what was coming. He thought I was nothing. He thought I was no one. He was about to learn the most dangerous lesson of his life. The quiet ones are always the ones you have to watch. And I had been very, very quiet for a very, very long time. The project with the former client was small, almost insignificant, a rebranding for their local subsidiary, barely worth his attention. That was the point. Marcus had grown too big, too successful to care about small accounts. He didn't notice when the client quietly ended their contract. He didn't notice when they hired me instead. That was his fatal flaw. I built the rebrand into something beautiful, something that reminded the client why they had loved working with me. They were thrilled. They recommended me to others. Within a year, I had a small but loyal roster of clients, all former Marcus clients tired of his arrogance. I wasn't competing with him. I was building something beneath his notice. But I was also watching, always watching. The file I had been building grew thicker, more damning. I had evidence of tax evasion, fraud, lies told to investors. I had documentation of the affair. He started years before leaving me. I had names, dates, amounts. I had everything. But having evidence and using it are different. I didn't want to destroy him in a way that made me look bitter. I wanted something elegant, something that would make him understand what he had done. The opportunity came from his new wife, Vanessa. She reached out asking to meet. I was suspicious, wondering if it was a trap. But her message was desperate. She said she needed to talk, that she didn't know who else to turn to. I agreed to meet at a quiet cafe. She arrived looking nothing like the magazine photos. In person, she was pale, trembling, her eyes red from crying. She sat down and began to talk. She told me Marcus had changed since they married. The charming man she fell for had become cold, controlling. He isolated her from friends, monitored her spending. She found evidence he was having affairs. She also found documents suggesting serious financial trouble hidden from her, from investors, from everyone. She was afraid. She didn't know what to do. She came to me because she read our history, because she thought I might understand. I listened, my heart a complicated knot. This woman was married to the man who destroyed me. I should have hated her, but looking at her, seeing her fear, I couldn't. She was another victim. She just didn't know it yet. I made a decision. I wouldn't use her. I would help her, genuinely, and in doing so, find a way to bring him down that felt clean. I told her everything, not just the legal battle. I told her about the manipulation, the gaslighting, the affair he started years before leaving. I showed her evidence, dates, photographs. I watched her face crumble. "What do I do?" she whispered. I took her hand. "First, protect yourself. Get a lawyer. Document everything. Don't confront him. Gather evidence quietly. When you have enough, come to me. Together, we'll make sure he never hurts anyone again." She nodded, tears streaming. "Why are you helping me?" I smiled sadly. "Because you're not his wife. You're his next victim. I know exactly what that feels like. Over 6 months, Vanessa and I worked in secret. She fed me information from inside, financial documents, email trails, recordings. I analyzed it, cross-referenced with my file, built a case airtight and devastating. We had him on tax evasion, fraud, embezzlement, charges that would send him to prison for decades. But we didn't go to authorities. Not yet. We waited for the perfect moment. It came on the 5th anniversary of our divorce, a date Marcus forgot, but I remembered perfectly. He was hosting a massive gala celebrating his decade of success with hundreds of clients, investors, media. The who's who of the industry would be there. The stage he built for himself. And I was about to burn it down. Vanessa and I arrived separately. She played her role perfectly, smiling, greeting guests. I arrived as a guest of a former client. Marcus saw me across the room and froze. Color drained from his face. I smiled and raised my glass. He recovered quickly, approaching with false warmth. "Sasha," he said smoothly, "I didn't expect to see you here." "I know," I said. "That's the point." I nodded toward the stage. "You should sit down. This will be interesting." He didn't understand. Not yet. As he took his seat, Vanessa slipped away and joined me. I handed her a flash drive. Everything. Evidence, documentation, timeline. It's all there. She nodded. "It's time." I watched her walk to the stage, take the microphone from the confused MC, and face the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, voice clear, "I have an announcement about Marcus Vance, my husband. Marcus is a fraud. He didn't build this company alone. He stole it from his first wife, Sasha, who is here tonight. He's been evading taxes, defrauding investors, lying to everyone in this room for years. I have the proof." The room erupted. Marcus lunged toward the stage, but security held him back. I walked slowly down the aisle, every eye on me. I stopped at the stage and looked up at the man who destroyed my life. "You told me I'd never survive without you," I said, voice carrying. "You were wrong. I didn't just survive. I thrived, and now everyone knows who you really are." The chaos was beautiful. Investors demanded answers. Clients walked out. Journalists swarmed. By morning, his empire crumbled. The SEC launched an investigation. Partners abandoned him. His reputation was ash. He was arrested 3 weeks later, charged with multiple counts of fraud. Vanessa filed for divorce the same day, armed with evidence ensuring she walked away with more than enough. I watched his perp walk on television. The same man who once told me I was nothing, now reduced to nothing himself. I felt no satisfaction, just quiet peace. I didn't destroy him. He destroyed himself. I just held up a mirror and let the world see. That is the last thing he expected. That is the last thing any of them expect. The quiet ones, the ones they break and leave behind, are the ones who remember. And memory, combined with patience, is the most powerful weapon in the world. I am Sasha Vance. I am not a victim. I am the woman they should have never crossed.